Another great Japanese dish is tempura. And the trick to really getting it right is to do all of your prep first of all. Cut up the vegetables, make your dipping sauces, and then start looking at doing your batter so that you can cook them off. So I've got a selection of vegetables here, and I've selected them really according to their colour, their shape, the different texture that they're going to have when they're cooked. So there's my beans just nipping off those ends there. Got a lovely capsicum here, and this will provide just a little bit of colour, the red. Our florets of broccoli, and maybe a spring onion or two. I really love a spring onion dipped in the batter and fried lightly. I've got a sweet potato here, quite thin rounds. They won't take too much cooking if I cut them quite thin. You could use ordinary potato for this. You could even use a little bit of pumpkin. You can pretty much tempura anything. That's what I like. My next step is to make the dipping sauce that these beautiful crisp vegetables are going to be dipped into. So again, we're using some of those traditional ingredients, probably around twice as much soy sauce as we've got mirin in here. Done about 2 tablespoons of soy, so let's go 1. You can see I'm carefully measuring things out, meticulous I am. Next thing I need to do is grate some ginger into that. This time our ginger is really providing us with that zing in the sauce. It's a nice little surprising flavour. And it also acts as a digestive for the fried food, which I think is quite helpful as well. My last ingredient, a lemon. And I need a little bit of that acid in there just to give it that lovely little citrusy lift. Just a small squeeze for a start off. And let's give that a little mix around. What I love to do is just collect, chopsticks from my local takeaway and use them as my utensils, making sure all those flavours are marrying up nicely, and then a little bit of a taste. Oh, it's such a fresh little sauce. I just love it. Another little side that I like to have with my tempura is grated radish. But this time I use just an ordinary radish because I like the slightly hotter flavour of it. Make a nice little pile. I love the colour of this as well, slightly pinky. And this radish acts as a bit of a palate cleanser. So I like the way that it really refreshes you, ready for more tempura. It looks good. All right. The last part of my preparation is to make the batter. Now the recipe calls for 2 different types of flour, all-purpose flour and also corn flour. So I'm just going to use a 1/2 cup of ordinary flour, so in we go with that, and then a heaped tablespoon of corn flour, and that just gives it that nice light crispiness. Maybe I'll add a little bit more, just hoping that my batter might be even more crispy. Mix those together. And then the liquid in this batter is made from an egg yolk and ice cold water, which is a little bit different to most batters that have milk and usually a whole egg in them. But just by using just the egg yolk and this very, very cold water, it tends to give it that crispness. So we'll just separate that egg. Whoop, and let's throw that in here. Just adding up to 1/2 cup of this iced water into my egg yolk. The trick with tempura is not to overmix the batter, and often we're trying to get all of the lumps out of a batter, but in this particular instance, a good tempura should still have a few lumps of flour in it and almost a ring of the dried flour around the bowl. And if we mix it with chopsticks, it just about guarantees that you won't be able to overmix it. That is done. Now I can start to cook the tempura. Don't be too mean on the oil. So I tend to use a smaller pot so that I don't have to use litres and litres and litres of oil. On that goes. So I'll just try 1 piece of my pepper first of all. A quick dredge through the batter and then straight into my oil. And the first one often is a bit of a tester. Ideally what I'm looking for is that as soon as I put the piece of vegetable in there, it sinks but then quite quickly comes up and floats on the surface. And that tells me that I've got just about the right temperature on the oil. So let's get a few other pieces in there. And just remember with your tempura that you're looking for a very pale coloured batter, and you're looking for it to almost have a little see-through quality to it as well. So now let's get on to our sweet potato. I think the beans can share the sweet potato pan. This dish is all about getting those different shapes, the different colours, slightly different textures, all on the plate at the same time for a sort of visual feast. Okay, in with our spring onions. These spring onions have quite a bit of water in them, so they tend to hiss and fizz a little bit, and that's all they need. Best way to have broccoli, I think. In fact, this is a great way to get vegetables into people who don't love vegetables. That's getting nice and coloured now. I think that'll be me done. Great. So just put a nice mixture of these on your plate, looking for that sort of textural difference in the colour. Pile them up there. Great, what a stack. This looks delicious and the moment I've been waiting for. A little bit of dipping sauce. Oh, sensational. Mostly you get the vegetable, but with this beautiful outer coating that is kind of crisp and delicious. And that lovely tang of the dipping sauce. It's good.